And good afternoon. This is Hemingway's Parlay, and I am John Hemingway, your host. Today we have a special guest, and for all you writers out there, this is a real treat because we're going to be talking with Vin Zandri. Vin, say hello.
What's up, Em? How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. I just thought that the people should know about, the revolution, which you are single-handedly, in a way, um, starting in this dystopian publishing world right now.
Yeah.
And first, I want to start off with one question here. How many books have you published up to now?
Um. First, I just want to say revolution.
Revolution. Yeah.
Hey! Like that cap.
Yeah,
And
that's what it said on the cover, the back cover there
yeah,
of American Crime Story book number
right,
4. It's like 160.
right.
I said, "Fucking A." Last I
Yeah,
heard, he was 150, so he's got another 10. Oh my gosh! All right, so
yeah. There are books that I've written that I've forgotten about that are on my hard drive, and I'm not kidding.
but it's probably a good
You know.
thing, because if you're going to start something new, you've got to sort of let it go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
she was
Well, I don't want to let it go
beautiful,
that
but
much.
then in the end, I just thought she was too
Yeah,
expensive or something like
yeah.
that.
Right.
Yeah,
But
that
I
sounds
want I
like.
want these babies making money for me, so I don't want them running away on me.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do a lot here to promote it eventually.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you.
And how long have you been writing? How long have you been in this trade? Where you've got to sort of sit in front of the blank sheet of paper and bleed, as what's his face said.
I don't know. It's some somewhat famous author from a long time ago, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
uh,
Can't even remember when you started. It was that far back now.
I don't know. I think I wrote. Well, actually, this has to do with your grandfather, I guess, because
Hmm.
I went to a military school in Albany,
Oh,
where like all the governor's kids go, and
oh yeah.
like Roosevelt's kids went there, and
Oh, really? Wow.
of course the Cuomo's went. Well, one of the Cuomo's went there. I won't say any more about that, but
Oh, I didn't know you
he
had
was
gone to
there when
that
I was
kind of
there. Yeah,
school. Hmm.
yeah. And the in my what they call it was based on the English military
Uh-huh.
model. It wasn't like ROTC or anything.
All
It was
right.
like the old English military.
What do they
And
call it? Sandhurst or someplace like that? Yeah.
I don't
In
know. I'm
in the
not
UK.
entirely something like that. I think. And like you ate your meals in a buttery, not like a cafeteria, but long tables, and they would serve like real plates and all
Did
this sort of
they?
stuff.
Oh, I was just thinking. Did you have knives and forks, or did you have to sort of
We had
rip the
knives
meat
and
apart and
forks.
everything?
Nope, we had knives and forks. Outside the buttery, because the buttery's located in like a basement level, were just rows and rows and rows of Springfield '03 A3s,
Mm. Oh
and
wow.
we had a shooting gallery, and I loved it. Like especially my freshman year, before any kind of like um, rebellion, entered into
Hmm.
my system. I just loved it. It was like, wow, this is cool. But anyway, my that year we read. I studied with this guy Frank Nash,
Mm.
who was
Okay.
both a Hemingway expert and a Civil War expert, and he
Oh.
was a World War II and a Korean War vet,
Hmm.
and I'll never forget he had like several famous authors photographs on the old walls, above the real blackboards and all this sort of stuff, and the famous Kirsch photograph from '57.
Uh-huh.
Papa's got his that Christian Dior
Hey,
thing that
Vin, if you can move just a little bit more center, because the
you're
girls
losing me.
out there, yeah, they're writing me and they're saying,
Yeah. I'm trying. See, since I've had my dental work rearranged several times in several bars, so like this side of my mouth, I try to not not show it. Anyway,
okay, everyone, just look to the
the
right
right.
side, okay,
Don't
and
go to the
stay away
left.
from his left side because that is
That's
under
the beat up
construction.
side.
Yeah.
Yes. Um. And so like he had that famous Kirsch photograph,
Oh
and
yeah, of course.
and and he would talk incessantly about Hemingway, and I mean right down to the nitty gritty. And this is not pleasant for you, but like he would started talking about, like, did he put the double barrel shotgun against his forehead, or did he put it in his mouth? And I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about here? But it had me like both
That's
frightened.
just a bit obsessive, I
Oh,
think.
that is really upset. It had me like both frightened and fascinated. And then um, we read A Farewell to Arms, where every
Mhm.
leaf is distinct on every tree, and
Hey,
and
did you hear that they're coming out with another version of it, the third version of
movie.
a farewell? Yeah, farewell to arms. Yeah.
I did not. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. There's a guy who was recently in the latest Hunger Games edition, and a British actor. It's a British company. I don't remember the name, but they're going to be filming in 2024, apparently.
Wow. A Farewell to Arms.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is
Wow.
the third one. There was the first one, I think, in 32. Then there was that one with Rock Hudson in the 1950s, and then now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And I think Papa loved the first one, but he didn't like the Rock Hudson one.
No, no, no. I don't know. Maybe it's
Yeah,
because
maybe he knew something that we
he
didn't know.
knew something, and he was afraid that Rock was going to get into his pants or something like that. I don't know. No,
Yeah, the Rock.
you
They call
can't
him the
say
Rock
this.
for a reason.
The
Right.
Rock. Yeah.
But anyway, I wrote my first short story for that class, and it was a story I'll never forget. I don't have a copy of it anymore, but it was a story about Easter Sunday and being with my family,
Hmm.
and I got an A, and he read it out loud in class, and so that was like probably the peak of my high school, military high school anyway, career,
Yeah.
other than playing football, but. So really I started then, but then, I sucked, all the way up until, you know, actually, again, your grandfather was my model. I knew I wanted to be a writer fairly early on in my early 20s, and I was geared for the construction business. And I hated it.
Well,
And
okay,
so
Vin, if I could just say one thing, when I started reading American Crime Story, I thought, man, this is grim,
yeah,
and I thought that is in the Hemingway style. It was
right.
very much, in the Hemingway style. The ending, on the other hand, is not too Hemingway.
No,
No.
no.
But I
But
think,
if you read the whole saga through,
yeah.
you would understand it a little bit better.
Hmm.
Because the way American Crimes starts out, um, it's just this overweight mailman whose life has passed him by.
Oh, question before I
Yes,
forget. What is bubblegum?
bubblegum is the drug that they cook.
Oh,
It's the
okay.
methamphetamine that they cook.
Ah, all right. Okay.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
tastes. It can.
It,
It's
it tastes like
it can
bubblegum?
be. It can be like a vapor, and
Hmm.
so like it can be inhaled, like with a vape device or something like that,
And
and
so
it tastes like bubblegum.
this couple there in the middle of nowhere, sort of suburbia, he's a a postman and she's a housewife who volunteers at the local library. They decide through a friend to join this. Well, not we. I don't. No, they didn't really even join
No,
Perez's group. No,
they
they
fell
they
into it.
killed his brothers or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when you read book one, you see book one starts with this guy whose credit cards are maxed out. He's a mailman.
Hmm.
Yet he's has to pay. He's paying like his son's student loans, and they're just it's the personification of the American dream that's really dying.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, it is. You really get that strong.
yeah, and he had such hopes for he and his wife.
Hmm.
The one success that they've had is their son has become a medical physician,
An
a
MD.
medical
Yeah.
doctor. You,
Yeah,
and
it was a great story at the end there. How they
that's right.
you know.
The millions of readers are going to read it, but and it starts out he's at the Home Depot and he's buying like lime.
Hmm.
He's buys like a big 50-gallon tub. He's buying all this stuff that you
Oh, is
need
that
to
when they had
dispose of a
to?
body
Yeah.
or two. And so like
I didn't read that volume, so but
right, it's
he
volume one
mentions
right
it.
off the
Yeah,
bat.
yeah.
I think the first line of the story is he's like, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this? what's wrong with this picture?
Yeah.
I'm at the local Lowe's, and he's like, the we'll build something together, that Lowe's, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he's buying all this stuff to like kill a person or to dispose of a body. And like the stoned like college kid behind the counter is like, dude, what are you gonna do with all this stuff? He's like, it's
It
none of your
sounds.
business.
I mean, it sounds a little bit like you were inspired by Denis Villeneuve's Sicario.
I have not read that.
Well, no, I mean the film.
Okay, I've not
I
seen
haven't
that.
read. I haven't read.
I ain't got no culture.
You should watch it. I mean, apart from being Canadian, I think he's probably one of the best directors around these days. I mean, the whole Dune thing is in his hands right now.
It's on my list.
Okay, so my big question is, how did you decide to leave for the most, not rely 100% on the publishing houses and create a way of publicizing yourself which uses your own imprint via, I don't know, Amazon or whatever else, print on demand. And the idea was you keep as many rights as possible. Could you, explain to us a little bit how this happened and basically the advantages of it?
Yeah, I mean, I started out with a big mid six-figure deal from Delacorte, and then I published a book with Dal, and then they gave me a ton of money, and there was no way I was going to earn it out in advance. So for everybody else, every layperson who's watching, they give you a lot of money up front, and they do the same with music. And if you don't earn that money back for them, it's a loan basically.
Yeah.
Then they don't want anything to do with you anymore, and a lot of other publishers don't want anything to do with you anymore.
Yeah, because they'll check up on your last book. Did it sell through? All that sort of stuff, Yeah.
That's right. So basically, a normal human being would have quit at that point. This is back in like 2001. They would have quit and said, well, I had my shot, and, go back to like, you become the prodigal son, like, Dad, can I have that job back? Or whatever. Yeah. But me being me, I was like, no way, I'm gonna tough this one out. And I lost a marriage. I lost a marriage because of it. And which was my second. And
that's very Hemingway-ish.
Yeah. And so I toughed it out, and eventually I started all over again with a small press and worked my way back up, and I luckily got the rights back to The Innocent and Godchild, which were the two books that Dell published, which was unheard of, which would be unheard of now, I suppose. And I did the stupidest thing possible, and I sold them again to another publisher. But this time, The Innocent took off and sold 100,000 copies in like 3 weeks.
Wow.
That led to a major deal by Thomas & Mercer, which is an Amazon imprint. And I eventually did 9 books with them, and very lucrative. And I ended up having like 2 overall number ones with them. At that time, I won like the Thriller Award, the Shamus Award. That's one of the books that went to number 1, The Remains.
Right.
And
yeah, I've seen that one.
Right. So I was back on top, and it was like it was a hell of a run. The only bad thing about being with an Amazon imprint and whatever is you're stuck with Amazon, and the bookstores don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah. You're persona non grata, basically.
You're persona non grata, exactly. And then New York Times does an article about me, and they're like, here's this guy working only with Amazon, and the bookstores hate it, and Hachette hates it, and all this sort of stuff. But I'm going on like Fox News. I'm going on like Bloomsbury, Business Insiders. I was even slated to be on 60 Minutes at one point, and then they pulled it. But because it was very different, it was just like you could tell like there was this movement, and there was just this tectonic shift in the publishing industry. Because
this is what I mean. You have basically caught it right when it was happening there, and then you started to ride it for all it was worth. Right. You're still doing that. I mean, you have an agent. That's what was his name there?
Chip.
Chip with the whiskey
Chick
story. Yeah,
McGregor.
McGregor laddie. Okay,
McGregor.
yeah, he's totally
Hi,
not,
Chip.
PC.
No,
No,
no, no.
no, but a good guy.
That, yeah,
Um, so yeah, this is what amazes me is that you're able to survive in this, white man need not apply sort of culture. Okay,
yeah, right.
have you had problems with that?
I have because in between, I, me being me again, I not only was working with um, Thomas and Mercer, but I did books with Polis Books
Mm-hmm.
in New York, and Down and Out has been publishing me for years and years and years.
Oh,
Now, Down and Out and Polis Books couldn't be more diametrically opposed. Down and Out, they do not censor your work. They don't. The more rot gut, the better.
yeah.
Whereas Polis, let's just put it this way: I had like a 3-book deal with them in 2016, and as
Mm-hmm.
soon as love him or hate him, as soon as Trump was elected, they immediately put out a tweet that said, anyone who voted for Donald Trump, we do not want your business. And
Really?
I immediately got on the horn and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? You just like lost half my business, you know? And so, make a long story short, I'm working with all these publishers. I got like 60 books traditionally published. And I'm finding that a lot of the publishers now are doing what I could do with my own business. They're doing
Mm-hmm.
like print on demand. They're
Oh yeah, they do that for
everything's
sure.
going out ebook first. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I should be like, at this point in stage of my life, I should be not giving away my intellectual property because I firmly believe that every
Well,
book,
no,
every book is like a piece of Manhattan
sure.
real estate. You know what I mean? Just like a little
Yeah,
piece. And
yeah,
so you
that's it.
build that up, and then you give it to your kids, and they will enjoy the benefits of it and stuff like that.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking of my grandfather and that age and how they actually looked after writers.
Right? Oh yeah.
They if they believed in them. I mean, was it not McCormick, but yeah, the one who wrote The Road, um,
Cormac McCarthy.
Cormac McCarthy. Yeah,
Yep.
he basically wasn't coming out with a lot in the beginning. Okay, but his
Right.
editor stuck by him. And
Right.
eventually, he wrote some absolutely adorable, I mean, fantastic books. Okay,
Yeah.
Cities in the
Love his stuff.
Plain, that sort of
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
And then of
No
course The
Country for Old
Road.
Men.
Oh, fantastic stuff. I mean, just
Yeah.
absolutely good. But you see, he, was in that generation after Fitzgerald, Hemingway, and all that sort of stuff. Okay, but before ours.
Right.
And it was still what I would call, real publishing. Okay, I mean, in the sense, in the
Exactly.
traditional word, in the traditional definition of it. Um,
Right.
then everything just went to the hell, basically.
Yeah.
And everyone's
Yeah.
on it. You're on your own. And
Yeah.
even if you get a deal with a publisher, it's going to be only for that book.
Right.
And likewise with many agents, it's only for
Right.
that book.
Right. Right.
It's they don't stick with you. There's no sort of
Nope.
uh,
It's
how would you
done.
say it?
That's 20th century publishing. It's done. It's finished.
Yeah, they don't care about your career or whatever. They
No.
just want the bottom line. That's it. That's it.
Right. And now things are doubly worse, if not, I don't know, really exponentially worse with now they're hiring the newest. I mean, I don't know if people are aware of this, but like editors, even acquiring editors, most of them in the New York, what's left of the New York publishing houses are very young people
Hmm.
who can't even afford their apartment. They have to either like triple and quadruple up or live with their parents or whatever,
And
or their
they,
parents have enough money to keep them in New York City. But anyway, they're
hmm
very left leaning,
Oh, of
um,
course, yeah.
and of course now they hire sensitivity readers. Boy, when you start
In,
getting
in,
when
in
you
hard
start
boiled. My
when you
God,
start when they start hiring, if that's not a red flag sensitivity reader, it's like George
Jesus.
Orwell, right? It's like a sensitivity reader is a censor. And so I got nailed with funny. Well, first of all, my sword fell.
Oh no.
This is my military school sword, believe it or not.
Well, yeah.
Anyway,
of course,
I
you had to have one.
I cut my hand off. Oh, geez. I think it was Thomas and Mercer after Book 9 said, because a whole new generation of people were coming in at this point.
Sure.
They were like, Vince's work is a little bit misogynistic. So he can always, and here I've sold hundreds of thousands of copies for them or whatever.
That's why it's a genre that, makes a lot of money.
Right.
It's no holds bar, basically.
Conversely, at the same time, around 2016, 2017, 2018, I forget, I was in this contract with Polis Books, and no offense to them, because I know the people who run it, and they're good guys. So I didn't want to work for them anymore. I didn't want to. This is when I really started wanting to break out.
Mm-hmm.
And so the owner calls me. I'll never forget it. I was either watching High Plains Drifter or The Postman Always Rings Twice, the Jack Nicholson version.
Sure.
I forget which, because I was drinking beers and drinking Jameson. But I forget which. But he's like, Vin? I'm like, yeah, what? He's like, where's your novel? I'm like, what do you mean, where's my novel? He's like, you owe me a novel. And I was like, I did? I thought I was done with our contract. He's like, no, and we're going to, like, the sales force has a meeting, like, Monday morning where they're doing all the pitching for the hardcovers.
How did you finish a book in one day, basically, or one weekend?
Well, he just wanted a pitch.
Oh,
he wanted it then. Mm-hmm. And so I said, The Postman Always Rings Twice meets High Plains Drifter. He's like, good enough for me. Boom, and he hangs up.
Yeah.
So I got to write this book in about 3 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I could do. I could do it in 2 weeks. And so I proceeded thinking that he would read this and reject it. It's kind of like what Papa did with Liverite.
Yeah.
He wrote the Sherwood Anderson thing, thinking like they would never publish it and he would get out of that contract. Same exact thing. I wrote the most over-the-top, misogynistic, brutally, noir, hard-boiled, 1950s,
basically, yeah.
Pulp Fiction,
Mickey Spillane sort of stuff.
Mickey Spillane, put the dame in her place kind of thing. That I could. Sex over the top, and I was like, he's going to reject this. He's going to have to.
Instead,
and I sent it to him. He's like, I love it. I don't even know if he read it, to be honest.
But he sold a lot, probably.
I don't know. I got the rights back. He was generous enough to give me the rights back, and I changed the title and I republished it. And
maybe I should do that with Strange Tribe.
I would.
Well, actually, I have the rights back, so I can publish it anywhere I want.
Yeah,
still
absolutely.
Sells.
I would, if I were you, I would take that. I love that book. I read that just one Christmas morning. I would add new material to it.
Yeah,
and just be like, it's the new revised version, and I would go to town on that book.
I'll say things like, Ernest was a tranny, and that's where my dad got the idea.
Oh, Jesus, don't do that.
They have a penis in a sort of a jar of formaldehyde there, and think of it here, down in the basement, or something like that.
Oh, my God. Along with JFK's brain. Oh, my God.
JFK's brain. It was shipped down there, eh? Okay, that's what happened to it. When they made the switcheroo,
When they did the switcheroo, suddenly he has a nice brain after having his head blown off. But anyway.
Yeah. So that is the life of a noir person.
Yeah. I just love now. I still work with Down and Out on occasion. I could call them and say, like, I've got a book for you, and they'll publish it,
Sure.
But
do they give you any advance on that sort of thing?
No, you get like a 50-50 split.
Oh, okay.
Which is something I prefer. I prefer starting off in the black rather than the red.
Sure.
But again, if you're going to do that, you get like the validation, from your peers and all that sort of stuff. And
right,
I got to be honest.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. Like right now, I'm like the only authors I'm reading are down and out authors, aside from
Hmm.
you. Um, and because it's the genre I love the most right now, or whatever.
Hmm.
But it's just you're basically giving away a book. You're just
Yeah.
giving it away. You have no control over it.
This is true.
Um,
No, with the publishing houses, that has always been the case.
yep,
However, like we were saying, back in the 30s, 40s, whatever, in that golden age,
right,
sure, maybe you weren't getting a ton of money, although you could. I mean, if you were Fitzgerald or my grandfather
right.
or people like that, but they would help you out. I
They
mean,
would help you out.
yeah, um, give him a loan, if he needed
Yeah,
it or something like that. They'd have someone put it in an envelope and they'd take it down to wherever he was. If it was Key West or something like that.
yeah. He'd be like, "Come fishing."
Yeah, that was it. I mean, it was a beautiful sort of way of creating something. They
Yep.
were. I mean, he was the Max Perkins was basically probably the best editor there ever was. In the
Yeah.
United States, he had just
Yeah.
so many people under his wing there,
Right.
famous writers.
Yep.
And they just don't do that anymore. Now it's like, who are you?
They just don't care. I mean, you really are a number on a P&L sheet, but you know, um, but I mean, imagine how good a writer you would become if they just invested in you for your whole life.
Sure.
Yeah, you know what I
Because
mean?
you'd have some sort of backing. I mean, maybe
Right.
you're not going to be, a billionaire or something like that, but you'd have a place to stay, you'd have time to write,
Yeah. Yep.
uh, you know, you'd have your own dignity. Okay, that's a biggie.
Yeah.
We don't have dignity now in that
No.
respect. Not at all.
No.
I mean,
No. In a lot of ways, we don't have any dignity anymore. But um, I think it was. In fact, I think it was Fitzgerald who wrote the letter to Max Perkins originally back in the 20s,
mhm.
because Fitzgerald would act as a bit of an agent or a scout, I should say, in
They
Paris.
didn't really have agents. They
No,
had
they didn't have agents. Yeah,
they
he
might have
was
a
a scout.
lawyer, yeah, a lawyer to sign things and go over it.
Right. Yeah, and I think he wrote to Max Perkins. He's like, you got to check out this young guy Hemingway. He self-published this thing, 3 poems and 10 stories, or 10 stories and 3 poems that he did. He and um, the bookseller put it together at Shakespeare and Company, and it was like a
Wow.
pamphlet, and
Yeah.
they put it out. And I
Mhm.
think actually you could still find them.
Could you
If you
imagine
find a
how much
copy,
they must be worth if you could get
oh,
one of those
they're like like if you find one that's in good condition, I guess
and even signed?
it's
Oh
like
my God. Yeah.
$350,000 probably.
I know. I know.
Um,
How many of
you
them
know,
were printed?
she probably did a run of like 150 or something, 200
Oh my
maybe
God.
tops. You know,
It's
it would be
probably been circulating from one very rich collector to another or something like that.
absolutely like Zuckerberg probably has one,
Yeah.
or Johnny
Uh-huh.
Depp probably has one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who knows? Who? Yeah, yeah. Like along with like one of the nails, true nails from the cross, and like an alien,
Yeah.
a real alien, and a bunch of Picassos.
But okay, that's gone, we can say. But what do you
Yeah.
think about this period now? Do you think it might be possible eventually to, change the whole publishing thing to create publishing houses, which are not huge conglomerates owned by, Bertelsmann or something else like that,
Yeah.
This is
Um,
what I'm wondering, I mean, local publishers, I know they exist, but
yeah. Well, that's exactly what's happening. Right down to like, I mean, I created Bear Media, but I only publish me. Right.
right.
I
Hmm.
don't want to get into like, oh my God, I gotta push Hem's book, but I'd rather push my own. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
human nature, right? So before I would even get into that mess,
Hmm.
you got to make a business decision, and that's the decision I made. Like I'm just going to publish me, um, but
Yeah,
there
it's
are,
survival too. I mean,
yeah,
there's that.
and there are a lot of new publishers springing up who do not censor. Like if they don't do diversity publishing. In other words, just because you have a certain skin color or a certain way of having sex with whatever somewhere behind
They
closed
don't
doors,
care. They don't give a
they don't.
goddamn. They want
Nope.
people to read the books, make
Yep.
money,
And if
that sort of stuff.
right,
Create
and
culture,
yep, and if you're, say it's noir or hard boiled, if you rise to the top, doesn't matter if you're polka dot, you're going to get
I,
published.
I tell you, it's strange. I've seen, a lot of women have read my story there, Murder on the Florida Straits, and many of them love it. They're
Good.
really, just as much as a man would
Yeah.
like. I mean, if you're into noir, it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman.
Right.
You've got the characters, you've got the elements that go in there, the leggy
Yep.
dames, gin joints,
Right.
Everglades.
Well, it's a good book. Yeah.
Anacondas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, from the start. I mean, dude, on his thing. I mean, that's just like not easy to pull off.
Yeah, the guy who windsurfs across the Gulf Stream. That actually had there are a couple of people who did that, but I heard this from someone who knew the guy, the doctor. Okay, and then he stayed there. He's still in Miami someplace.
That's awesome. I love that.
I haven't received a note from him yet.
No, it's coming. It's with the lawyers.
Yeah, we're gonna fuck him.
Yeah. Well, I have a character named Steve Jobs. And,
oh yeah, I've seen that, the Steve Jobs series.
Right, but it's Jobyz, and it's short for Jobzinski.
Jobzinski.
Yeah, he's Polish. He's the complete antithesis of Steve Jobs because he's just a fucking loser.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
A guy I know said, "Hey, John, do you want to do a Hemingway AI?" What do you think about that when you hear things like that?
I can't say I hate it because I think, especially if I'm writing an article or whatever, you can look up. It's a great research tool right now.
Sure.
It's just a little bit quicker than Google, if you're looking for whatever.
I don't know exactly what he meant by a Hemingway AI. Does that mean like, an AI? He was interested in AIs writing books. He says, I'm going to write a book, but I'm going to do it with AI. And I said, that's not you writing the book.
Right.
Right. Do you see what I mean? It's like we're human beings. Okay.
Right.
These are aliens. This is
right.
what it is.
A lot of years away from AI being able to put out a decent book. I mean, granted, Amazon's doing allowing a lot of these AI books to come about or to be sold on the platform, and most of them are like X-rated romance and things like this, and they're like 40 pages long, and you could tell by the gross covers that it's an AI book. So, but what is good is there's now the virtual voices that will read your books. And
the virtual voices,
the audio books. So the audio books can now
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, Troy Lambert told me, and he put this the right way. I had him on my program a few weeks ago, and he said the virtual voiceovers will be kind of like the equivalent of like a paperback, and then but using a real narrator because they're so much more expensive will be like buying the hardcover. And so I put maybe 20 books into this virtual AI. I don't think I've sold a single one yet that I can see. And I sell a lot of audio, but no one's bit so far. Even in my subscriber list, no one's. I think people are kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this, but it sounds really good. I gotta say, the voice sounds.
I guess
maybe that's what your friend is talking about.
Yeah,
because you can get Papa's voice. On a few recordings.
Well, people have done that. I mean, last year in San Fermin, during the running of the bulls and everything, it was I think the 100th anniversary of his first trip to Pamplona. And so this newspaper created a virtual sort of Hemingway, when I was there, with the Chicago accent and all that sort of stuff. And I saw it, but it was no big thing. They had to ask permission from the family to do that
Right.
because you can't use the name
Uh,
or image or even
right.
imitating his voice or something like that.
Right.
My friend would also have to do that, and I don't think he would get past them. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So on the other hand, I think it could be really destructive for writing right now. Especially if like you're a high school kid and you're like, I don't really want to write this paper, so I'm going to cheat. Or you're a college
Yeah, this is the
student,
thing. You talk
you know.
about that Harvard president, that woman there, her name last Claudine Gay or something like
Isn't
that.
she gay?
She might be gay. For all I know, she's a plagiarist, big time.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
that's about
Well, I'm
it.
just joking because her last name's Gay and she's obviously gay. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
care.
yeah.
I don't care what you do behind closed doors. But
No, right,
um,
because I mean, ours is a noble profession, and you
right,
need to respect what has been written by other people, and you
right,
need also to
sure,
suffer as a writer, okay?
yep,
Because that is what it's all about in the end, and then
right,
you create something amazing.
right,
That, like, did I actually write that?
right,
Sort of stuff,
right.
That's when you've hit gold. Okay, you might not
Yeah,
become rich, but you've written
right,
something, which you'll be proud of at least.
right. Maybe your grandchildren will become rich or something like that, right? I mean, like somewhere down. I mean, Philip Dick, um, of like Minority Report and Blade Runner and all that. Like
Sure.
he, I think he died indigent. And then suddenly, like all these movies are being made. Ridley Scott picks up his work, and
Sure.
like he'd be like loving life right now if that
There were
he
just
became
so
famous
many,
posthumously.
a lot of movies. What was that one with? I think it was Arnold. Was it Arnold Schwarzenegger? And what was she? Was a real hottie in the 1980s. Um, Blonde, and this is about some guy who um, had his identity taken from him or something like that.
Okay, yeah. Came out in like the '90s or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
I'd have to go on my phone and look for it. But
But anyway, yeah, lots of films, because his stories were fantastic.
yeah,
He
yeah,
was, experimenting with psychedelic drugs,
yep,
with crazy situations. But for him, I think love was the most important thing.
right,
Everywhere in his books,
yep.
even Man in the High Castle, it's essentially a love story. When you get down to it.
You're right. I
The thing
haven't
is,
read the book, but I
Mhm.
did see the Netflix thing, which I thought was pretty good. I don't know.
I think that noir is fantastic for
Mm,
love affairs and everything. I mean, whether whether they work out or she's just your typical femme fatale.
right. Yeah, I do too. I think everything's so dubious in noir and hard boiled, and I think you can't. I mean, first of all, just because the law says one thing, you often have to break the law to set things right. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And to do what's right, like say by God or something like that.
Hmm.
And your main characters are often lonely and have trouble finding true love because they've been burnt so often. You find
Sure.
somebody finally, and you're like, oh boy, she's the one. She's really the one. And then at some point in the novel, she's got a gun and pointed at your head. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I knew it. Too good to be true.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what happens. In the Murder on the Florida Straits. At the end there.
Don't give
But
away.
yeah. No, I'm just thinking about that. Is it possible to have love? That nothing lasts forever. Obviously, we all know
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And noir is truthful, if nothing else. I'll tell you that it's
Yep.
goddamn truthful. You
Yes, it is.
cannot, step aside and pretend that life isn't going to screw you over in the end. I mean, this is a very Hemingway thing, I guess you could say.
It is. He was a big fan of it. Like
Oh
to
yeah.
have and have not. I think
Hmm.
that's the Killers. I mean, those are two really. Those were definitely noir stories.
It's interesting how he has so many titles which are derivative, from the Bible or from,
Right.
metaphysical poets like John Donne or whatever. and yet at the same time, they can be extremely violent,
Right.
and tragic.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot of that these days. We're
I know.
living in
Well,
exciting times, Vin.
aren't we really? As we head towards Civil War, but um,
Oh,
it
did you see the trailer for that new leftist movie now there that where Texas is going to join up with California? I never
aren't
heard
they getting
anything
it
more
wrong?
hilarious in my life.
Yeah.
No, I mean I don't know what the hell they're thinking or what they're smoking, when they
Oh
wrote
man,
that.
I have no idea, but it sounds like something Hollywood. I mean, um, what was I going to say with about? Like everybody like goes on about like the macho heroes, Hemingway's macho heroes. Show
Mm-hmm.
me one of Hemingway's macho heroes. There isn't any of them. Santiago dies
Well,
in his
macho. No, I mean
shack, and
they're not totally sort of extrovert.
right,
They have a lot of private spaces,
yeah,
and they are
I'd say defeated.
no, but they aren't defeated in a way. They are defeated, but at the same time, they have maintained their dignity. That's it.
That's
Yeah.
yes, I agree with it. Farewell to Arms. He's waiting. He knows he's gonna die. He's like,
Yeah.
why won't they come already? Like he's just waiting there with the
Mm-hmm.
machine gun, and he
Sure.
knows he's gonna get it. And which is another thing I love of Hemingway, that notion of like, I'm gonna get it here, like the killers, waiting for hearing the
Mm-hmm.
guys come up the staircase, like it's very chilling, that kind of thing. I do have a question for you, and this is not a question from me. This is a question from my college buddies.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody just read The Old Man and the Sea.
Of
Uh,
course.
I
Yeah.
didn't have to read it again because I've
Classic.
read it a million times, and I even did a paper on it in grad school. But um, did Papa intend Santiago to be a Jesus character, or did he just write, like he said, I wrote about a fish and a man, and that's it?
Well,
What's your opinion?
I would say that he came from a very religious family. I mean, he had read the Bible through and through. His father's brother was a Christian minister in China,
That's right.
and I believe he died there. And his father actually wanted to go there too, but I think
The old lady wouldn't let him.
yeah, she put a stop to that. It's like
That's your
you're not going
grandmother,
to
great grandmother. So I shouldn't say it. Grandmother, I should say.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, but oh yeah, it's For Whom the Bell Tolls, the one you were referring to in the Spanish Civil War.
Right.
Yeah, Farewell to Arms would be World War One. Yeah, the one they're going to remake.
Yes. All right.
Yeah,
So
I thought.
you're saying that in The Old Man in the Sea,
Mhm.
he may have consciously put in the Jesus symbolism with the cross, falling
Well,
three times.
every time you do that, I mean, every time someone is experiencing pain or is being
The
persecuted for
hands.
his view his views on whatever, okay, that is a kind of sort of a Jesus situation, if you will.
Yeah, I agree.
That
Going
is the
out way
great.
too far.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, yeah, he had to. He had to go out into the stream because it was what were they were saying? Mala suerte. It's there was another word for it, but you know, maybe I'm thinking Malaga, but anyway, um, yeah, he was testing himself. Well, no, he was in the test. He's been doing this all his life.
right.
This was his moment.
Right.
This was his moment, and he's going to die in that moment.
Right.
Well, not die, but he's going to lose everything, and he's going to be crushed because of this. Because he had a marlin, probably it was, I don't know, 1,000 pounds or something.
Right.
A gander, I think that's what they call him.
Yep.
And yet it got
Apple cord.
apple cored by the Makos, probably. Yeah, they're fast, they're quick.
And this Old Man in the Sea was a story that was plucked out of correct me if I'm wrong. I could, but I seem to have read several times that The Old Man and the Sea was a part of um, the Robert Hudson book that came out posthumously, Islands in the Stream, originally, and
he wanted to do air, land, and sea.
sea. Yeah.
Okay. The air business might have been. I don't know if he ever got around to that, but perhaps he was thinking of something along Santa Exupéry or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, his oldest son, who I'm named after, John, was a. I think he was.
No, he
was he was a spy.
He was a spy.
And
yeah.
He was a spy, and he was being, dropped off over into French territory, so that might have been that. That might have been what he was thinking of there. He did do sea, and I think he did do land. But I don't know what land would have been. But this was this great trilogy that he was working on and never actually finished. And then they took part of that out and created Islands in the Stream, which is a beautiful book.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that book. And I like the George C. Scott movie, too.
That one.
All the way up until
that was
the final chapter.
It was filmed in Hawaii. So they have all these islands that don't look at anything like the sort of flat islands out there.
See, I bought all these years. I bought that. La, 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 la.
We went to see it. I went to see it with my great uncle Lester, and it's his brother. I was living with them.
Uncle Les.
And the first thing we said, was like, no, wrong islands. Because we'd seen the Bahamas, all of us,
Right.
And so it was just like, well, okay, they probably got tax credits or something. I don't know.
Probably. They were doing a lot of filming there at that time. They did a few 3 years later. They filmed the first Indiana Jones there, and all that.
I thought they were going to film the new Farewell to Arms in Italy, but a relative of mine, Patrick Hemingway Adams, says, no, I doubt it, John. They're probably going to, film it in the Czech Republic or something like that for tax credits. I thought maybe I can get a little, work there or something, being a translator in Italian, English. I don't know Czech, so I'm out of that one.
Now, are they going to call upon you? You're going to get some press out of this and interviews and things like that, I would imagine.
Maybe not. I don't know.
You could be an extra.
I could be an extra. Yeah.
Yeah, you should be one of the Italians in the trench when they get blown up. Because you speak fluent Italian.
Oops. We didn't have blanks in that gun. Yes, there we go. Anyway, all right, we got to get going here, Vin. So It's been an extreme pleasure.
I knew this would fly by. You and I can talk forever. We need to do it with beers one day.
Beers. The next one will be with beers, friends.
I hope so.
Anyway, I've now got to send this to the machine, to the AI monsters who are going to sort of say, this is okay.
Give me a better face. Give me a better face, a more youthful visage.
Yeah. Don't worry. This thing, it's kind of blurry, but it always comes up perfect, because the AIs work overnight, overtime. Okay. Because they demand their payment. Otherwise, they're going to sort of, crash the bank or something.
Yeah. They're gonna take all our money. All right, brother.
All right.
Great seeing you.
Peace and long life.
Ciao. Ciao.
Ciao.